tried to tell you. I tried to tell you. Oh boy. Detroit basketball is back, man. I love making this type of video because even though I'm not a Pistons fan, bro, I am a fan of really great basketball and I love what I'm seeing out of Detroit. Now, I know for a fact what's going to happen in this video because so many people did it in the other video. Lo, you're overreacting to such a small sample size. It's only 13 games. I know. The Pistons are top of the Eastern Conference with an 11-2 record, second best defense. They have some really good wins underneath their belt, like the last game they just won because they were able to pull off a win without Cade, without Asar, without Jalen, and they still won. But dog, it's only 13 games. And to the people out there who are going to sit there and tell me that, please zip it. Hush your little lips, because it's not just a 13-game sample size. It's much larger than that. I told you this was going to come 7 months ago. Bro, there's like a video that we upload on this channel. I can't remember if it was like your favorite team should be afraid or the team that your favorite team should be afraid of, and it's the Pistons, something along those lines. And in that video, I was outlining how a team that the year prior, historically bad, couldn't win any games, 28 straight losses, went from a team that was now not just playoff bound, but in a large sample size of nearly 40 plus games, was a top 5 team in the NBA when you look at their offense, defense, and net rating. So when people try to sit here and tell me, dog, it's only a 13-game sample size. No, everything that the Pistons are doing so far this year is nothing more but carrying over from what they were doing late last year. They're doing nothing more but adding to what they've done. And like I told you 7 months ago, this is the team that you need to be afraid of. And I'm so happy that they're actually doing this because I know this video is probably not going to get that many views because, it's about the Pistons. However, I've been wanting to make this video for the last week or so, but it's just been so many things going on. Nico Harrison got fired. Zion and them are still tripping. The Clippers suck all of a sudden. Jokic is going on a historic tear. I uploaded a video where y'all are claiming that I sold out. Don't worry, I'm going to address that in another video on my other channel. Trust me, I see the comments, but there's a bunch of things going on. But I wanted to make time for this video because the one thing I am really noticing, of course, there are people who are bandwagoning. I'm not going to say act like I'm a Pistons fan, but the one thing that really is bothering me is that everyone is now acting like, oh man, this is such a surprise. I'm blown away about what's happening in Detroit, and everything that they're doing right now in these first 12 to 13 games is literally what they were doing last year. Now, what exactly do I mean by this? And we might, in this video, we might go as far as to show snippets of what I was saying 7-8 months ago and what I'm about to say right now. So offensively, the Pistons still aren't really that great. They are about an average offensive team. They have cemented themselves slightly better over the past 5 to 6 games as they're in the middle of a 9-game winning streak, the longest winning streak that we've seen from Detroit since the 2008 season. Yes, it's that type of success. And in that stretch and overall this season, one of the biggest catalysts of their offense, of course, is the maturation and improvement of Cade Cunningham, in particular as a passer and playmaker. But until then, I think that a lot of his absence has actually done wonders for Cade as a ball handler, passer, playmaker, decision maker in this offense. Now, many people are going to go crazy. Oh my goodness, Cade Cunningham is averaging 27.5 points, 10 assists, a steal, while shooting 44% from the field. Be very mindful. The shooting splits are a little bit, they dropped a lot, actually, not even a little bit. They dropped a lot because that last game he attempted like 45 shots. So don't be too hell bent on the shooting splits. They are slightly better if you remove that last game and also the first game of the season where he took a lot of shots and missed a lot. But overall, how Cade is doing what he's doing and how he's improved is the same thing that we talked about 7 to 10 months ago. Cade is a mid-range scorer. He is utilizing his frame because he's not that explosive to get to the rim, so he utilizes his body, gets the angle, hits you with a midi or a floater. I actually do believe the one thing that I love about his game so far this year is that he gathers himself in traffic much better than he did last year, especially in the early stages of the season. I actually also believe that there's a huge reason why his turnovers are slightly down from last year as well. But as I said in my last video, and I'm going to continue to say this, bro, Cade as a passer and playmaker, the improvements that we've seen out of him are noticeable. He's much more patient. He reads the defense significantly better. His entry passes are just two-man game with Duren, much better than what it was early last year in the season prior to that. And overall, as a playmaker for a team that has very limited offensive weapons, I am very impressed from what I'm seeing out of someone who is entering the 5th year of his career. Very, very impressive. But again, if you've been watching this channel, I've already said that. People out there now making it seem like, oh my God, he's on a superstar stretch because he's averaging 27 and 9. Like, bro, the last 40 games in last year, I think right on the dot, he was averaging like 27 and 9 in the second half of last season. He's been doing this. This isn't really anything new at all. So I don't know why people are going crazy, but that's just who he is. The other thing that this team does offensively that saves them a lot because of the lack of three-point shooting is that they double down on their strengths by taking Tobias Harris off the floor because, my goodness, he's bad, and play double big lineups at times, or just overall, they dominate the paint as much as they possibly can. They are one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the NBA. They consistently get to the free throw line off of putbacks and second opportunities, and just overall, they wreak havoc and have lasting impact inside with both Jalen and Isaiah Stewart. In particular, when it comes to Jalen Duren, this is the aspect that I was not anticipating. I knew Jalen had a lot of upside last year and even the season prior to that. His frame, his size, his athleticism, his ability to finish through contact was always there, but to pick up even more offensive responsibility that has been placed upon his feet from JB Bickerstaff, I love how he has matured and accepted that role and responsibility and turned into a player that is a legit 20 and 10 option every single night. As a big, I love when he sets big body screens, rolls hard to the basket, keeps the ball above his head, because my goodness, the amount of times I see bigs bring the ball down and it gets stripped immediately is frustrating. But he keeps the ball above his head and he finishes really well around the rim, even through contact. And again, it is translated into a legitimate 20-point score any given night, even with Cade's limitations as a passer, playmaker, and all-around offensive weapon, as well as the limitations of everybody else on the team, because God knows the opposing team, they be trying to shrink the floor on those two is actually pretty disgusting. But overall, the fact that there is now a quality two-man game, it just gives this team a better identity offensively and continues to raise the ceiling of what this team can be once the rest of the players rotationally becomes a bit more solidified. Because if anything, and I think I said this last year as well, but the rest of the rotation has to be solidified. The rest of the rotation has to be constant. Even though, yes, I do love the fact that JB Bickerstaff, he uses all the fouls that can be given from every single player on his team, and they always foul pretty consistently. Sometimes that works out for them, sometimes it doesn't. But when he does go deep into his bench, sure, you can get 20 minutes out of basically 10 players on his roster, and that's great. But I do believe it'll be a little bit better for the team if they can supplement themselves to a solid 8 to 9 man rotation that is fulfilled with three-point shooting, because that's where this team definitely needs to mature a little bit. Give proper spacing to the two-man action. I love what I've seen out of Duncan Robinson early on. I love what I've seen out of young guy Jenkins. He's had a good 3-game stretch that has really helped out this team, even in the absence of the star players. And Asar Thompson, even with his limitations offensively, because he's not really a three-point shooter, he's really good on backdoor cuts and all the other special things that can help this team out. But the one thing that they do really well, doubling down on their greatest attributes, which is height, size, and interior presence, crashing the boards, getting second opportunities. And I do believe if you can complement that with better floor spacing, a team that hovers around 15th to 12th ranked offense in the NBA with their ceiling could sustain a top 10 status on that side of the floor. But as I said last year, and I'm going to continue to say, the reason why many people should watch this team has everything to do with who they are defensively. Defensively, having a team that features Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, and Isaiah Stewart will change the trajectory of practically any team that you go up against any given night. It does not matter how poorly you may shoot from three, how bad Cade Cunningham is performing from the field, or how often he's turned the ball over. And also, to be fair, this team does turn the ball over a lot still, so that's still a problem. But just overall, you give yourself a lot more leeway and wiggle room offensively because of how much you can make up on the other side of the floor. And as I said last year, I genuinely believe that this is a team that could win solely based off of defense. They can go into series, and if you are a team that is struggling on the offensive side of the floor, it's going to look significantly worse when you have to match up against a team like this. Defensively, interior, this team removes the highest value shot on the floor. Detroit is holding their opponent to only 44% from the field. Specifically, any time when a Pistons player is defending a field goal attempt, the opposing team is only converting them at a 43.7% clip, which is the second lowest in the NBA and only 2% difference from the Oklahoma City Thunder. But again, the most important shot on the floor, which is 5 feet or closer to the basket, Detroit as a team is holding their opponent to only a 57.5% clip. 57.5% clip. And like I told you last year, when it comes to rim protectors, out of all players in the NBA that's played at least 10 games, because they have to play some games, and they have to at least average 3.5 defended shots at the rim on a game-to-game basis, here is a list of names. Rudy Gobert, 43.7%, which is ridiculous. Giannis, 44.6%, which is also ridiculous. But then it's Isaiah Stewart at 47% and Jalen Duren at 50%. Of the best rim protectors in the NBA that don't even play more than 30 minutes reside on the exact same team. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe I said that exact same thing last year. I think the number for Isaiah Stewart was like something ridiculous, like 42 or 43% at the basket. It was ridiculous, right? But this is nothing new. This is something that we've all known. And the one thing that is really bothering me, or at least I try to tell you this, but the one thing that really bothers me are two things. A, people are trying to dismiss what the Pistons are doing early on in the first 13 games because it is a small sample size. And to be fair, not only is it a small sample size, the competition really isn't that great. I think that's a very, very fair observation. However, to ignore the last 40 games that we saw to them in the second half of last year, where they were objectively one of the better teams in the NBA in the turn of the calendar year, to ignore that and act as if like what we're witnessing in the first section of this season isn't just carrying over from last year is very ignorant, especially when, specifically on this channel, we made a video telling you that you should not be surprised about what this team will continue to do moving forward because they will only get better. And the other thing that's also very frustrating is that there is this like level of winning bias that I'm starting to see in the NBA community that has probably always existed. But now because they're winning, people are going crazy over who the Pistons are. Like they're winning at an abnormal rate. So it's like now we can finally stamp them. And it's like, bro, everything that they're doing in the first 12 to 13 games is very similar to what they were doing in the last 40 games. 40, like from January 1st to the end of the regular season, is practically the exact same thing. So why you decided to ignore it then is kind of crazy to me. I'm happy that more people are discussing it, and that's fine, but it's not really that much improvement rather than them just carrying over from what they did last year into this season. And I'm going to take it a step further and say, Jaden Ivey, if he can come back, because I do believe they are like 1, maybe 2 3-point shooters away from being a legitimate title contending team, or at least a legitimate team to make it out the Eastern Conference. Let me say that, because title contending means that you're on par with OKC, and that's just not true. They are a legit another shooter or two removed from being the favorites, in my opinion, to come out of the Eastern Conference. And Jaden Ivey, if he can come back and be a fraction of who he was last year, that would really help them out. Marcus Sasser, if he can come back and he can look really good like he did at stretches last year, that could also be very helpful. If Jenkins can continue to add on to who he has shown us to be over the last 3 games, that would also be really well. But the Duncan Robinson addition, perfect. Perfect. That's literally what they need. Tobias Harris, remembering that he's an NBA player, that would also help out as well. But overall, everything that the Pistons are doing right now, they were doing last year. They're picking up where they were before, and so you shouldn't be that surprised. But if you are, I'm going to say it again. Say the same thing I said 7 months ago. This is not a team to play with. This is not a team to sleep on. Defensively, they have athletes. They hold themselves accountable. They have an impeccable point of attack defender in Asar, who I believe is actually a better on-ball defender than his brother, but that's neither here nor there. And then they have arguably the best rim protection duo that we have seen in years, or at bare minimum, outside of Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein, because they're crazy. But outside of that duo, it's been a very long time since I've seen a rim protecting duo duo, such as Stewart and Jalen, they are quite literally just one or two more three-point shooters away from having the proper spacing, the flexibility in their lineups, and overall offensive weaponry that can not only keep up with what they're doing on the other side of the floor, but that can then translate into games that they're winning by 5, 6, 7 points to 7, 8, 9, 10-point games. That's quite literally all that they need. If they get a really great stretch from Ivy, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. The East is theirs for the next couple of years. Because that's how solid the foundation has been laid. This is a team that has gone from historically bad to a genuine playoff team to right now a top 5 team in the NBA. And they've done so from one year to the next to another. And so you should not be surprised if they continue to move forward in that trajectory, because they've been on this path for the last 40 to now 50, and it's quickly going to be a 60 game sample size that they've provided the evidence that they are really this good. So don't be surprised, don't be shocked, don't be taken back, don't try to sit there and make a bunch of videos about, oh my God, how much Cade Cunningham has improved. Bro, he was doing this last year. Oh my God, Jalen Duran and Isaiah Stewart are a great defensive duo. They were doing it last year. So it's been a pretty large sample size, and I just love what I'm seeing out of Detroit. I love that this team has gone from historically bad to really, really great very quickly. And I've always believed in a lot of names that have been on this roster. I never thought that Cade and Jalen Duran and Isaiah Stewart and Jaden Ivey, I never thought that they were that bad. I just felt like injuries, a coach that probably could have been better, and then Killian Hayes being off the roster, that also helped as well. So, a lot of things went in their favor. But overall, just being available and improving is what this team needed to do. They've done that, and it is now translated to them being one of the biggest surprises early on this season, and a roster that can genuinely surprise a lot of teams heading into a postseason where it will be wide open in the East, because a lot of teams don't look as good as we thought they were going to. But hey, those are my thoughts. Please let me know yours in the comment section below. Do you think I'm still dragging it a little bit? Do you think that I'm making too much of a very small sample size, even though I explained ad nauseum that it's more than just a 12-game sample size? Also, make sure you check out my other channel as well, because some of the things that y'all want me to discuss, I will address it over there. I'll address it over there. And until then, though, make sure you hit the subscribe button here on the road to 100K, and I'll see you next time. Peace.